At 7:30 a.m., the phone rang. What happened next sent shivers down my
This
spine.
is Detective Sarah Chen, Boston PD. We need you to come down to the station. It's about Luca Graves.
Okay.
My coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattered on the floor, because Luca had been gone for 8 months, vanished into witness protection, erased from existence. What about him? I whispered. He's dead, Miss Finch. And according to his final confession, you might be in danger. That was 3 hours ago. Now I'm sitting in a police interrogation room, learning that everything I thought I knew about the man I loved was a lie. This story looks simple. At first, a librarian falls for a reformed criminal. He protects her. She loses everything. They part ways. A tragic love story. Until you realize someone was manipulating us both from the very beginning. Someone who wanted the library closed. Someone who needed Luca dead. Someone who's been watching me for far longer than 84 days. And the worst part? I helped them do it. My name is Clara Finch. I'm 26 years old, and I think I might have accidentally killed the man I loved. Let me tell you what actually happened. 12 months ago. Before the phone call. Before I knew any of this. My name is Clara Finch, and I need you to understand something before this story begins. I wasn't some innocent victim who stumbled into danger. I chose it, deliberately, systematically. 3 years ago, I tried to kill myself. Pills in a bathtub, goodbye notes, the whole cliché. My neighbor found me, called 911. I woke up in a hospital bed with a psychiatrist asking me to rate my pain on a scale of 1 to 10. I laughed. Because, how do you rate the pain of existing when existing feels like drowning? They kept me for 72 hours, then sent me home with a prescription and a therapist's business card. Dr. Ramos, she's the one who suggested I keep a journal, document my progress, prove to myself I was still human. But here's what she didn't know. I didn't document to prove I was healing. I documented to prove I could survive anything. Even Daniel. Daniel was my boyfriend for 2 years. He loved me so much he broke 4 of my ribs. Loved me so much he isolated me from everyone I knew. Loved me so much that leaving him felt like the bravest and stupidest thing I'd ever done. When I finally escaped, I promised myself something. I would never again let fear control my choices. I would face danger head on. I would smile at it. I would prove that nothing could break me, because I was already broken, and broken things can't shatter twice. That's the version of myself who started working at the Ashmont Street Library. That's the version who first saw Luca Graves sitting at the table by the window, staring at nothing, carrying grief like a second skeleton. That's the version who decided to save him. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that I wasn't the only one with a plan. The library was dying long before I got there. Budget cuts, declining patronage, a neighborhood slowly being forgotten by everyone except the people who couldn't afford to leave. I took the closing shift because nobody else wanted it. 9 p.m., alone in a building that smelled like decaying paper and broken promises. Perfect for someone who'd learned to love emptiness. Thursday night, week 1. That's when he first appeared. Expensive suit, dark hair silvering at the temples, scarred knuckles. He sat at the table by the window and stared at the parking lot like he was waiting for someone who'd never arrive. I noticed him because I notice everyone. The woman who only reads romance novels with happy endings. The teenage boy who hides in the computer section. The elderly man who pretends to read newspapers but really just needs someone to acknowledge he exists. I notice the broken ones. Takes one to know one. Week 2. He came back. Same table. Same empty stare. I researched him during my lunch break. Luca Graves, 34. Tried for racketeering and murder for hire. Acquitted, his father. Francesco Graves, mafia boss. Dead in federal prison. His mother, Elena Graves, cancer. His sister, Sophia Graves, 16, killed in a car bombing. 8 years ago, outside this library. I read that last part 3 times. Then I looked at his table. The one by the window. The one with the perfect view of the parking lot where his sister died. And I understood. He wasn't waiting for someone. He was keeping vigil every Thursday, the night she died, returning to the scene like a ghost haunting his own life. That's when I made my decision. I would save him. Not because he asked, not because he deserved it, but because saving people is how I prove I'm still alive. It's my version of smiling at danger, my version of control. Dr. Ramos would call it a trauma response. She'd say I'm recreating dangerous situations so I can rewrite the ending. She'd say I'm confusing rescue with love. Maybe she's right, but I did it anyway. Week 3. I left him a book, The Weight of Wings, on grief and the art of letting go. I'd read it after my mother died. It didn't fix me, but it gave me language for the heaviness. I thought maybe Luca needed that too. He didn't open it, but he didn't throw it away either. Week 4. I left another one, The Anatomy of Violence. Week 5. How to Forgive Yourself. Each one carefully chosen, each one a breadcrumb, each one designed to pull him out of his grief and into something resembling life. What I didn't realize, what I wouldn't realize for months, was that someone was watching me leave those books. Someone was documenting my every move. Someone had been waiting for someone exactly like me to come along. Someone who would do their job for them. Week 6. The harassment started. 4 men. Late 20s. They showed up at closing time. Banged on the windows, yelled obscenities, made sure I knew they were there. The tall one, I'd learned his name was Garrett, seemed to be the leader. Angry, volatile, dangerous. I smiled at them through the glass. Not because I was brave, because I'd already survived worse. Daniel had taught me that fear is a choice, and I'd chosen differently. The harassment became routine. Every night, escalating slowly, testing boundaries. And every Thursday, Luca sat at his table and watched. I thought he was concerned, protective, maybe even interested in me. I didn't realize he was being manipulated too. Week 12, 3 months in. Luca spoke to me for the first time. You should call the police, he said. They don't come here anymore. Then you should leave earlier, when there are more people around. I close at 9. That's my job. His jaw tightened. Your job shouldn't require you to get harassed. I looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the guilt, the fear, the desperate need to save someone because he'd failed to save Sophie. I appreciate the concern, I said, but I can handle it. By smiling at them. By not giving them what they want. That's when he told me about Sophie. About the car bomb. About how this library was the last place they were together. And I thought, I can save him. I can give him the redemption he's been seeking for 8 years. What I didn't think was, why are these men harassing me specifically? Why this library? Why now? I didn't ask the right questions, and that mistake would cost everything. Week 15. The harassment intensified. Garrett brought a knife. Didn't pull it out. just made sure I saw it tucked in his waistband. A message. A threat. An escalation. That night, I wrote in my journal. Day 105. Weapon introduced. This is getting dangerous. But I won't stop. Because stopping means he wins. But here's what I didn't write. I was scared. Genuinely scared. For the first time since Daniel, I felt that old, familiar terror creeping back in. And Luca noticed. Week 16. He confronted me in the parking lot. I can make them stop, he said. I don't want that. You don't even know what I'm offering. Yes, I do. You'll hurt them. Maybe worse. And I'll be responsible. His face darkened. They're hurting you. And I survive it every single day. That's my power, not yours. We argued. About autonomy. About protection. About whether survival counts as living. But here's what neither of us knew. Someone was recording that conversation. Someone was documenting every interaction between Luca Graves and Clara Finch. Building a case. Building evidence. Building towards something we couldn't see coming. Week 18. The library window got broken. 2 a.m. A brick through the back window. Police came, filed a report, left. Probably kids, they said. But I knew it was Garrett. And Luca knew it too. That's when everything changed. Week 19. Tuesday morning. Luca was waiting for me when I arrived at work. I need you to do something, he said. Tomorrow night. Thursday. Close early, don't be here. Why? Because I'm asking. What are you planning? He wouldn't answer, just kept insisting I stay away. I refused. Because refusing was my form of control. My way of proving I could handle my own life. What I didn't know? Luca had received information. A tip. Someone told him that Garrett and his friends were planning something violent for Thursday night. Something that would end with me hurt, or worse. Someone fed him that information, knowing exactly what he'd do with it. Someone was orchestrating all of us like pieces on a chessboard. Week 19. Thursday. Day 84. The night everything fell apart. Luca arrived with backup. 2 men. Professional. Dangerous. They confronted Garrett and his crew in the parking lot. I watched through the library window as Luca dismantled Garrett in 11 seconds. Watched as he whispered something that made Garrett sob. Watched as they all scattered like roaches. Then Luca turned to me. And I felt it. Violation. Not from Garrett's harassment, but from Luca's protection. He'd taken my choice away. Decided his need to save me mattered more than my autonomy. I never asked you to do that, I said. I know. Then why? He looked at me with eyes full of grief and desperation. Because I couldn't watch you get hurt. That's when I realized he wasn't saving me. He was trying to save Sophie. And I was just a stand-in for his guilt. You didn't save me, I said. You made me a victim. The next day, anonymous complaints flooded the library board. Reports of violence, weapons, unsafe conditions. Within 2 weeks, the Ashmont Street Library was shut down permanently. My sanctuary, gone. Luca's memorial to Sophie, destroyed. Both of us believing it was consequence. Collateral damage from trying to do the right thing. Neither of us realizing it was always the plan. Someone wanted that library closed, and they used us to do it. 3 weeks after the library closed, I got my first clue that something was wrong. I was packing up my apartment, couldn't afford rent without my library job, when I found something strange in my mailbox. A newspaper clipping, No envelope, no return address, just the clipping. Ashmont Street Library to be demolished. Luxury condos planned for historic site. The article was dated 2 years ago. Before I worked there, before any of this started. Someone had been planning to close that library for years. They just needed a reason. And we gave them one. I called the library board, asked who filed the complaints. Anonymous tip line, they said. We're not required to disclose sources. But there were multiple complaints, right? Different people? A pause. Actually, now that you mention it, they all came from the same IP address. Same phone number, but different names. My blood ran cold. So one person filed multiple fake complaints? We didn't verify that at the time. We assumed. I hung up. One person, orchestrating everything. But who and why? I started digging. Late nights in coffee shops with free Wi-Fi, searching public records, cross-referencing names. The luxury condo development was owned by Ashmont Properties LLC, registered in Delaware, Shell Corporation. But buried in the paperwork, I found a name, Marcus Chen. Marcus, the youngest of Garrett's crew, the quiet one, the one who apologized. I found his address, drove there, knocked on the door. A woman answered. Late 50s, kind face. Can I help you? I'm looking for Marcus Chen. My son? He doesn't live here anymore. Moved out 6 months ago. Got some kind of job. Sudden money. He was so proud. She stopped. Wait, are you the librarian? Clara? Yes. Her face changed. He talked about you. Said you gave him a book once. Said it changed his life. Said he was trying to be better. Better. While orchestrating the destruction of my life. Do you know where he is now? Some property development company. He didn't give me details, but he sends money every month now. Takes care of me. Whatever he's doing, it's good for him. I thanked her. Left. Drove home with my hands shaking. Marcus wasn't a victim. He was the architect. But why? And what did this have to do with Luca? I couldn't find Marcus, but I found something else. In the police reports from the night Luca confronted Garrett, there was a detail I'd missed. One of the men with Luca Victor, his second in command, had a body cam running. Standard practice for graves, the report noted. He documents his confrontations, insurance against false accusations. If Victor had footage, maybe he still had it. I tracked him down through Luca's old associates. Took 3 weeks and most of my savings, but I found him. Montana, small town, working at a hardware store under a different name. I showed up, unannounced. Victor saw me, and his face went white. You shouldn't be here. I need to see the footage. From that night, the parking lot. Why? Because I think we were set up, all of us. And I think Luca's death wasn't an accident. Victor stared at me for a long time. Then he said, "Come with me." We watched the footage in his apartment. The confrontation, Luca disarming Garrett, the whispered threat. But then Victor rewound, showed me something I'd missed. Before Luca and his men arrived, there was another car in the parking lot. 30 seconds. Someone watching from across the street. Victor zoomed in on the license plate. Registered to Ashmont Properties LLC. Marcus was there, I whispered. Watching. Making sure it happened. There's more, Victor said. He showed me another file. This is from 2 weeks before. Luca received an anonymous tip. Said Garrett was planning to hurt you. Said it would happen Thursday night. Said he needed to act, or you'd die. Who sent the tip? Traced it to a burner phone. But look at the timestamp. The message was sent at 2:17 a.m., the same time the library window was broken. Marcus broke the window, I said, then sent the tip, created the threat, and the solution. Yeah, and here's the thing. Victor pulled up another file. Luca went to the feds 3 days later, offered to testify against the families, said he wanted out. Wanted to protect you by disappearing. I know, witness protection. That's what we thought too. But look at this. He showed me a federal case file, Luca's testimony, his placement in the program, and the federal agent who handled his case, Agent David Chen, Marcus's father. My world tilted. Marcus's father is FBI? Was FBI, retired. But yeah, and here's where it gets interesting. Victor pulled up another document. Agent Chen had been investigating the Graves organization for 12 years. Never got enough to make charges stick, until Luca walked in offering to testify. Marcus created the situation that forced Luca into witness protection. Not just that. Victor's face was grim. Look at Luca's death certificate. Cause of death? Single car accident. Lost control on a mountain road. But I checked with the agency. The car was tampered with. Brake lines cut. Someone killed him. Someone who had access to witness protection locations. Someone with federal connections. Agent Chen, or his son. The phone rang 4 times before he answered. Clara? Marcus sounded surprised. Happy even. Hey, I've been meaning to call you. How are you? I know what you did. Silence. I know about Ashmont Properties. About your father. About Luca. More silence. Then, you should come see me. Let's talk in person. So you can kill me too? I didn't kill anyone, Clara. And I didn't do anything to you. I helped you. Helped me? You destroyed my life. No, his voice was calm, rational. I saved it. Garrett was going to hurt you. Really hurt you. I made sure Luca intervened before that could happen. You manipulated us. Both of us. I created an opportunity for both of you to get what you needed. Luca needed to save someone. You needed to be reminded you were worth saving. I just facilitated. The words were so reasonable, so calm, so absolutely insane. And the library? Your property development? Business, Clara. Nothing personal. The library was dying anyway. I just accelerated the timeline. And Luca? A pause. Longer this time. That wasn't supposed to happen, Marcus said quietly. Dad went rogue. He thought Luca would expose the arrangement. Thought he'd figure out I'd been feeding him information. Dad was trying to protect me. So he killed him. It was an accident. A precaution that went wrong. An accident. You cut his brake lines by accident. Clara, listen to me. I liked you. I still like you. You gave me that book, remember? The Outsider. You saw something good in me when no one else did. That mattered. Not enough to stop you from destroying my life. I gave you a better life. His voice rose for the first time. You were wasting away in that dead-end library, smiling at danger like some kind of martyr. I gave you purpose, gave you Luca, gave you a love story. You gave me trauma. You already had trauma. I just redirected it. I hung up, sat in my apartment, shaking. Because the worst part was, he wasn't entirely wrong. I had been wasting away, stuck in patterns, choosing danger as a form of control, using my survival as proof of worth. Marcus had seen that. used it, weaponized it. And part of me, a part I hated, was grateful. Because knowing Luca, loving him, losing him, it changed me. Made me want to live, not just survive. But at what cost? I spent a week deciding what to do. Option 1. Go to the police. But with Agent Chen's connections, would they even investigate? Or would I disappear too? Option 2. Go public. But who would believe me? A traumatized librarian accusing a decorated FBI agent and his son of orchestration conspiracy. Option 3. Let it go. Move on. Survive. I chose option 4. I went back to Montana. Found Victor. Gave him all the evidence. "What do you want me to do with this?" he asked. "I want you to finish what Luca started. I want you to testify. I want you to bring them down. Not for revenge. For..." My voice broke. "For justice. For Luca. For everyone they've manipulated." Victor looked at me for a long time. Then, he nodded. "Okay, but Clara, this is going to get dangerous. They'll come after you." "I know. You sure you want this?" I thought about Luca. About his annotated books. About his desperate need to save someone. About how love, for him, looked like violence because violence was all he'd ever known. I thought about my mother's words. "Don't let the world make you cruel, baby." And I thought, maybe cruelty isn't about violence. Maybe cruelty is about looking away when someone needs help. "I'm sure," I said. "If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 500 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter." Victor went to the Department of Justice, brought evidence, testified. Agent David Chen was arrested 3 weeks later. Marcus disappeared. The case made national news. FBI agent orchestrates murder to protect real estate scheme. I gave one interview to a podcast about crime and manipulation. They asked me how I felt. Used, I said, but also awake. For 3 years after my suicide attempt, I sleepwalked through life. Marcus woke me up, in the worst possible way, but he did it. And now I have to figure out what to do with that. 6 months later, Marcus was found. Not arrested, found. Dead, apparent suicide, overdose in a Montana hotel room. The same town where Luca had died. The note he left was addressed to me. "Clara, you were right about everything. I thought I was helping. Thought I was creating something beautiful from chaos. But I was just another person choosing violence because I didn't know how to choose anything else. I'm sorry. For Luca. For you. For pretending I was better than Garrett when I was so much worse. You gave me a book once, told me to remember who I wanted to be. I remembered. Turns out I didn't like what I saw. I didn't cry when I heard. I just felt tired. Tired of death. Tired of manipulation. Tired of broken people breaking each other." Dr. Ramos asked me how I was processing it all. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I thought I'd feel vindicated, or angry, or something. But I just feel sad. For Marcus. For Luca. For everyone who thought violence was the only language they could speak. And what about you? What language are you speaking now?" I thought about that. "Survival," I said, "but different this time. Not survival as proof, survival as choice. I'm choosing to keep living, not because I'm not afraid, but because I am afraid, and I'm doing it anyway." 1 year after the library closed, I got a package. No return address, just a book. The Weight of Wings. Luca's copy, the one he'd annotated, the one I'd sent to him in witness protection. Someone had mailed it back to me. Inside, a new note. Not Luca's handwriting, someone else's. He wanted you to have this. Wanted you to know. He learned to carry the weight differently. And he was grateful for everything, for you. Victor. I opened the book, read through Luca's notes. Then I found something new. On the last page, written in different ink, recent ink, one final message in Luca's handwriting. Clara, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And you probably know the truth by now. About Marcus. About the manipulation. About all of it. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Sorry I played into his hands. Sorry I took your choice away that night in the parking lot. You were right. Protection without consent is just control. But I want you to know, loving you wasn't part of anyone's plan. That was real. That was mine. That was the one choice I made that wasn't about guilt or grief or trying to save Sophie. It was just you. Thank you for that. For giving me something real in a life full of lies. Keep swimming. L. I held that book for 3 hours. Then I wrote a response in the margins, knowing he'd never read it. Luca, you were right about one thing. Trying matters, even when it fails. You tried to save me. I tried to save you. We both failed, but we also both succeeded. Because we gave each other something neither of us thought we deserved. Love without conditions. Even if it was brief, even if it hurt, even if it destroyed us, it was real. Thank you for that. I hope wherever you are, you've finally forgiven yourself. I hope you've learned that Sophie's death wasn't your fault. I hope you're at peace. And I hope, God, I hope you know that I loved you too. Not because you saved me, not because you were broken, but because underneath all that violence and guilt and grief, you were just a man trying to be better. And that was enough. That was always enough. Rest now. You've earned it. See. I donated the book to the new library where I worked. Put it in the grief and loss section. A week later, a teenage boy checked it out, read it cover to cover, returned it with his own note in the margins. This helped. Thank you. And I realized that's how we survive. We pass our pain forward, transform it into something that might help the next person, turn our grief into grace. Marcus was wrong. He didn't create something beautiful from chaos. He created more chaos disguised as beauty. But Luca and I, we created something real, something honest, something that mattered, even if it hurt, especially because it hurt. 2 years after everything ended, I received a visitor. A woman, late 50s, elegant, sad eyes. Clara Finch? Yes? My name is Elena Graves, Luca's aunt. My heart stopped. She sat across from me in the coffee shop, ordered nothing, and said, I need to tell you something about my nephew. Something the police don't know. Something Victor doesn't know. Okay. Luca didn't die in that car accident. The world tilted. What? The brake lines were cut. Yes. The car went off the road. Yes. But Luca wasn't in it. He staged his death. Why would he? Because he figured out what Marcus was planning. Figured out that the library closure was just the beginning. That Marcus's father was going to tie up loose ends, and Luca was the loosest end. So he faked his death. Made it look like Agent Chen succeeded. Bought himself time. Time for what? Elena pulled out a folder. To build a case. Real evidence. Enough to bury the Chens and everyone involved. He's been working with federal prosecutors for 18 months. Anonymous informant. They've arrested 12 people so far, including 3 other FBI agents. I couldn't breathe. He's alive? Yes. Where? I can't tell you that. But he wanted you to know. Wanted you to understand that he's still trying, still fighting, still choosing to be better. Why didn't he tell me himself? Because he thought you'd moved on. Thought you deserved better than waiting for a dead man to come back to life. He loves you enough to let you go. Tears streamed down my face. I never wanted to let him go. Elena handed me an envelope. Then don't. This is an address. He'll be there next Thursday, 9 p.m. His choice whether to show up, yours whether to meet him. I held that envelope for 6 days. Thursday came. I drove to the address. A library. Small, independent. In the neighborhood I didn't recognize. 9 p.m. The lights were on. The door was unlocked. I walked in, and there he was. Luca Graves, alive, different haircut, different clothes, same sad eyes. "Hi," he said. "Hi." We stood there. 2 people who'd destroyed and saved each other, trying to figure out if there was anything left worth salvaging. "I'm sorry," Luca said. "For everything. For taking your choice. For not seeing Marcus's manipulation sooner. For dying without saying goodbye." "You didn't die." "I did. The man I was, he died. I'm trying to be someone different now." "And who's that?" "Someone who asks permission. Someone who respects boundaries. Someone who loves without violence." I stepped closer. "And are you succeeding?" "I don't know, but I'm trying. That's all any of us can do." We talked for 4 hours. About Marcus, about Elena, about the case, about us. "I don't know if we can make this work," I said honestly. "We're both so broken." "I know, and I'm still angry. About the parking lot. About you taking my choice. You should be. But I also love you. And I don't know what to do with that." Luca took my hand, carefully, asking permission with his eyes. "We could try," he said, slowly, carefully. "With therapy and boundaries and honest communication, we could try to build something healthy from all this damage. Or we could fail. Again." "Yeah, we could." I looked at our joined hands, thought about everything we'd survived, everything we'd lost. "Okay," I said. "Let's try." Trying was harder than I expected. Luca and I started couples therapy. Dr. Ramos recommended someone, Dr. James Wu, specializing in trauma and attachment. Session 1. Dr. Wu asked us, "What do you want from this relationship?" Luca said. "Redemption," I said. "Proof I can love someone without losing myself." Dr. Wu said, "Those are both terrible foundations for healthy love." He was right. It took 6 months of weekly sessions before we started to understand. We couldn't heal each other. We could only heal ourselves while choosing to be together. Luca worked on separating me from Sophie, on understanding that saving me wouldn't resurrect his sister, that his guilt was his to carry, not mine to cure. I worked on separating Luca from Daniel, on understanding that protection and control are different, that someone can love me without owning me. We both worked on communication, on asking instead of assuming, on saying I need space instead of disappearing, on saying I'm scared instead of smiling through danger. It was messy. We fought, we cried, we almost quit 17 times. But we didn't. 3 years after the library closed, the trial finally happened. Agent David Chen, charged with murder, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. Luca testified. So did Victor. So did I. Marcus's mother testified too, cried on the stand, said her son had been a good boy once, before his father's ambition corrupted him. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Guilty on all counts. Agent Chen got life without parole. Outside the courthouse, a reporter asked me, "How does it feel to get justice?" I thought about that word, justice. "It feels incomplete," I said honestly. "Because justice won't bring back Luca's sister, won't bring back Marcus, won't bring back the library. Justice is just accountability. And accountability doesn't heal wounds. It just acknowledges they exist." Then what does heal wounds? I looked at Luca, standing beside me. Time, I said, and choosing, every single day, to be better than the people who hurt us. 4 years after everything started, I got a job at a new library. Not as a librarian, as director. Ashmont Memorial Library, built on the site where the old one stood. Funded by donations from the community, a settlement from the wrongful death lawsuit against Agent Chen, and a sizable anonymous contribution from someone named L. Graves. Opening day, 200 people showed up. The mayor spoke. Community leaders spoke. And then they asked me to speak. I stood at the podium, looking at all these faces, and said, "This library exists because people believed something was worth fighting for. Not just books, not just a building, but the idea that everyone, no matter how broken, how lost, how damaged, deserves a place where they can be safe and seen and human." 4 years ago, I thought I was fighting for my autonomy, for my right to handle my own life without interference, and I was, but I was also fighting for connection. For the right to be seen as I am, scared and strong, broken and brave, surviving and thriving simultaneously. This library is for everyone who's ever felt like those things at once. Welcome home. 5 years after our first Thursday night, Luca and I got married. Small ceremony. Just Victor, Elena, Dr. Wu, Dr. Ramos, and a handful of friends. No violence, no drama, no manipulation. Just 2 people choosing each other, fully aware of how badly they'd failed before, determined to try again anyway. Dr. Ramos cried during the vows. Dr. Wu looked proud. Elena whispered to me afterward, "Sophie would have liked you." That meant everything. 6 years later, we had our first child. A daughter, Sophia Elena Graves. Luca held her for the first time and wept. I don't know how to do this. How to be a father. How to protect her without controlling her. You learn, I said. Same way we learned everything else. By trying and failing, and trying again. What if I fail her the way I failed Sophie? You won't, because you're not that person anymore. And even if you stumble, we'll catch you. Sophia and I, will catch you. Parenthood was terrifying. We fought about everything, about boundaries, about safety, about how much to protect and how much to let her risk. But we fought fair. We apologized. We compromised. We tried. 12 years after everything started, I gave a TED Talk. The topic, the violence of good intentions. I talked about Marcus, about how he believed he was helping, about how manipulation disguised as care is still manipulation. I talked about Luca, about how protection without consent is control. about how love that takes away choice isn't love at all. I talked about myself, about how surviving isn't the same as healing, about how I confused endurance with strength. And I talked about what I learned. Good intentions don't erase bad actions. Trying doesn't excuse harm. And love, real love, requires respect, consent, and the willingness to let go when holding on causes pain. The people who hurt us often believe they're helping. The people who control us often believe they're protecting. And the people who manipulate us often believe they're creating something beautiful. But intentions don't matter if the impact is harm. So how do we love each other better? We ask, we listen, we respect boundaries, we allow people their autonomy, even when it terrifies us, even when we're certain we know better. We love people as they are, not as we wish they'd be. And when we fail because we will fail, we apologize, we learn, we try again. That's all any of us can do. Try, fail, try again. And hope that trying is enough. The video went viral, 12 million views, thousands of comments. Some people praised me, others said I was too forgiving, others said I was too harsh. Everyone had opinions. But the comment that mattered most came from someone named SG. Thank you for this. My brother died 12 years ago trying to save someone. I always blamed myself for his death. Your talk helped me understand. He made his choice. I made mine. Neither of us were wrong. We were just human. Thank you for that. Sophia's friend. I cried when I read that, because I knew that was from someone who knew Sophie, someone who'd carried guilt for 12 years. And maybe, just maybe, my story helped them carry it differently. 15 years after our first Thursday, Luca got sick. Cancer, the same kind that killed his mother. We fought it. Chemo, radiation, every treatment available. But some fights you don't win. His last night, we sat together in our bedroom. Sophia, now 11, was asleep downstairs. Elena was there too. And Victor, and Dr. Wu. I'm scared, Luca whispered. I know. Not of dying, of leaving you, of Sophia growing up without. She'll be okay, I promised. We'll be okay. You made sure of that. Did I? Did I do enough? You did more than enough. You chose to be better. You broke the cycle. You loved us well. That's everything. Luca closed his eyes. I wish I had more time. Me too. But we had 15 years, and they were good years. Hard years, but good. Do you think Sophie would be proud? I know she would. Luca died at 3:47 a.m. peacefully, surrounded by people who loved him. His last words were, "Thank you for everything, for seeing me, for loving me, for teaching me that trying matters." 5 years after Luca died, I sat in the Ashmont Memorial Library, his library, our library. Sophia, 16 now, same age Sophie was when she died, was volunteering, helping patrons, smiling, alive. A young woman approached my desk, early 20s, nervous. Miss Graves? Yes? I saw your TED Talk about good intentions and harm, and I think I need help. My boyfriend says he's protecting me, but I feel trapped. And I don't know if I'm being ungrateful or if... You're not being ungrateful, I said gently. Trust your instincts. But he loves me, and he's just trying to keep me safe. I pulled out a book. handed it to her. The Weight of Wings. What's this? A book that saved my life once. Read it, see if it helps. And if you need to talk, I'm here. Every Thursday, 9 p.m. She took the book, left. And I thought, this is how we honor the dead. We pass forward what they taught us. We help the next person carry their weight. We try to be better. We try to break cycles. We try. That night, I wrote in my journal. First entry in years. 20 years since I tried to die. 15 years since I met Luca. 5 years since I lost him. And I'm still here. Still trying. Still choosing life. Even when life is hard. I learned something through all of this. Survival isn't the goal. Growth is. Connection is. Love is. We survive so we can live. We live so we can love. We love so we can teach others how to do the same. Luca taught me that. Marcus taught me that. Even Daniel taught me that, in his own terrible way. They taught me that we're all just trying to survive our childhoods, our traumas, our failures. And some of us learn to do it with grace, some with violence, some with manipulation. But we're all just trying. And maybe that's enough. Maybe trying, really, honestly trying to be better is the most human thing we can do. So I'll keep trying. For Luca, for Sophie, for every person who walks into this library carrying weight they don't know how to set down. I'll keep trying. That's all any of us can do. 20 years. That's how long it took Clara to fully heal from everything in this story. 20 years of therapy, of choosing herself, of breaking cycles, of learning that love doesn't have to destroy you to be real. And you know what? She made it. Against manipulation, against violence, against people who used her trauma as a weapon. She survived, and then she thrived. If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. But here's the thing. Clara's story? It's not unique. There are millions of Claras out there right now. Millions of people smiling at danger because they've already survived worse. Millions of people trying to save someone who can't be saved. Millions of people learning slowly, painfully, that survival and healing aren't the same thing. And I'm going to keep telling their stories. So, if this one mattered to you, hit that like button, tell the algorithm that complex, emotional storytelling deserves a platform. Subscribe and turn on all notifications, because the next story drops soon, and you don't want to miss it. When now we're marvala by word do through, while alavri bala by word do through, and frunda 2 word do through, and forma 7 like a 2 word do through, and other now the time a 7, and Chris did. Comment below. Tell me what this story made you feel. Your engagement literally shapes what I create next. What's coming next? Let's eat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about stories that don't have easy answers. Now go out there and be like Clara. Choose healing over revenge. Choose growth over bitterness. Choose trying, even when